Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to our webinar this afternoon on the pensions module for Sage 50 Payroll. My name's Duncan, I'll be your host and presenter, and I am joined today by my colleagues Laura and Louise, who are both standing by in the background, ready to answer any questions. We'll now take a look at what we're going to cover in the webinar. So we'll start with an introduction to an employer's automatic enrolment duties, including the ongoing duties after the employee has first staged for automatic enrolment. And we'll introduce the pensions module, which is designed to help manage those duties. We're then going to give you a demonstration of the pension assessment option, which will be a key part of your payroll process with the pensions module, and it deals with ensuring that anyone who meets the criteria gets put into a pension scheme and allows you to easily manage any opt-in or opt-out requests and to apply postponement where needed. We're then going to move on and talk about sending pension data and the different ways that the pensions module can facilitate this process when it comes to sending enrolments and contributions to your provider. And finally, we'll take a look at Send Pension Correspondence, which manages all of the letters that are required for employees joining a pension scheme, joining your company for the first time, or in the event of applying postponement. And then at the end, I'll run through where you can find further support, and we will stick around for a while just to make sure that we have answered as many questions as we can. So let's get started with the introduction to the employer's automatic enrolment duties. Now, you can find more information about this on the Pensions Regulator website, but you have a certain set of duties at your staging date or your duty start date, which for any new business will be the day they take on their first employee. And that included choosing a qualifying pension scheme, working out which staff need to be put into that pension, writing to your employees to explain about auto-enrolment, and then declaring your compliance with the regulator by completing a registration process. And I would imagine that most of you here have completed those initial duties. But unfortunately, it doesn't stop there. You do have a set of ongoing duties, which you would need to keep on top of, usually each and every pay run, although there is a 3-year duty when it comes to re-enrolment. So on an ongoing basis, you will need to monitor the age and earnings of your staff so that at the point auto-enrolment is triggered, you know to put them into a pension scheme. You need to maintain contributions to your scheme, so working out and deducting employee contributions and employer contributions. You're responsible for managing requests to join or leave your scheme, known as opting in or opting out. You'll need to keep records to demonstrate how you've complied with these duties, and every 3 years, starting on the anniversary of your staging or duty start date, the 3rd anniversary, you will need to re-enroll employees that previously opted out or left. So it's these duties that the pensions module is designed to help you manage, taking the admin burden out of them. And we're going to show you the first 4 in the demos today. And re-enrolment, we do have a separate webinar, which you can watch on demand from our webinar guide. So I won't be covering re-enrolment today, but we will be covering everything else. So what is the pensions module? It is an optional add-on to Sage 50 Payroll, so you take out a subscription to it, and it's designed to eliminate the admin burden of automatic enrolment. And the 3 main areas that we're going to focus on today are the pension assessment, which becomes part of your pay run, sending pension data to your provider, and sending pension correspondence to your employees. Now, if you haven't set this up and you need some guidance on how to do that, I have included a link to our setup guide, which you can find at the bottom of this slide if you download the handout. Now, before we jump into the demos, we're just going to run a quick poll so that I can find out a bit more about your current experience of the pensions module. So on screen, we have a question for you to answer, which I'm just launching now. So what I'd like to know, if you don't mind, is do you currently use the pensions module? So I've given you 4 options here. The first is I have the pensions module and I use it. Second option is I have it, but I don't use it. The third one is I don't have the pensions module. And the fourth one is I don't know. So we'll give that maybe up to a minute to give you a chance to cast your vote. So do you have it and use it? Do you have it but not use it? Do you not have the pensions module? So do you do all your tasks manually, or are you in that don't know category? Okay, so we're just coming up to a minute there, and we've had over 80% of you voting. So let's just close that down, and I will just share those results with you, the overall results, where you've told us 69% of you have the pensions module and use it. So hopefully today will help explain a bit more why you're doing this and what's happening behind the scenes. 14% have it but don't use it. So you'll get a view of what you could be doing to make your life a bit easier when it comes to administering auto enrollment. 9% don't have it. So we'll learn more about what it is. And 8% of you don't know. Hopefully after the demos, you'll get a feel for whether or not you do have these features. So thank you for joining in the poll. And we are going to move on, and we're going to take a look at the pension assessment. So what is a pension assessment? Well, it's a task that will run a check on all of your current employees. It will identify eligible staff. So that's employees that meet the criteria to be auto-enrolled into a pension scheme. And if they're not already in a scheme and haven't previously opted out, it will assign a qualifying pension scheme. So the key thing to understand with the pensions module is anything to do with adding or removing a pension scheme is done via the pension assessment. There is no requirement for you to manually add a pension scheme. And by doing it via the assessment, it means that you'll get letters generated, you'll be able to create enrollment files, and you'll have a full audit trail of what's happened in your system. Now, as well as that assessment, which you would do on an ongoing basis, it gives you options to process opt-in requests, opt-out requests, and refunds where applicable. And you can manage postponement for any new starters, employees with a pay spike, or employees who turn 21. So at the point that enrollment is triggered, you are allowed to postpone that enrollment for a period of up to 3 months. So in the first demo, we're going to show you all of this in action. So I'm going to bring the slides down. I'm already logged into my program. I'm running a monthly payroll for this purpose of this demo. And I'm at the stage of my pay run where I've entered everyone's payments and I'm ready to run the pension assessment. So if you follow the tasks from the list on the left-hand side, you'll see that pension assessment comes directly after enter payments. And for those of you that follow the process map, which looks something like this, you'll see pension assessment also appears in that same place. So let's open up the assessment now. The first thing that happens is you're prompted to take a backup. So we do strongly recommend that you back up your payroll data at this point, because there are certain changes that to undo them would require you to restore an earlier backup. So it's better to have a backup and not need it than the other way round. So I'm going to respond yes to this prompt, which will take me through the backup wizard. I can then find a location for my backup. I can give it a name. I'm going to call it pre-assessment. And then we've got that point to restore back to if we ever needed it. So after a short delay there, we've seen the pension assessment screen opens. You'll see a list of the employees that were selected for the assessment option showing their name, employee reference, and national insurance number. And then the next column along, the type column, will tell you what category they fall into in relation to auto enrollment. So it's the eligible category that needs to be in a qualifying pension scheme, unless the employee has previously opted out. And an employee would be eligible if they're aged between 22 and state pension age, and they have qualifying earnings of at least £10,000 per year, or the monthly or weekly equivalent. So for monthly, that's £833 per month. and for weekly, it's about 120. So you can see that a lot of my employees are eligible. We also have some non-eligible employees. So they're either outside of that age range or they don't quite earn enough. And we also have entitled workers. So these are the employees who earn below the lower level of qualifying earnings. Now, to check why an employee falls under a particular category, you can hover over their status. So for this first employee, you can see they are eligible. Their qualifying earnings are above the trigger. They're between 22 and state pension age, and they're a UK worker. And they were enrolled back on my duty start date, which was the 1st of March 2019. For the other statuses, so non-eligible, the reason this employee is non-eligible is because they are above state pension age. So they don't need to be auto-enrolled, but they can ask to be enrolled. And then the entitled workers, their qualifying earnings are below the lower level of qualifying earnings. So looking down the statuses, you can see that most of my eligible staff are shown as auto-enrolled. We have got some that have opted out or ceased membership of a qualifying scheme. So employee 2 opted out back in March of last year. And we've got an employee down here who left the pension scheme. For those that are in the scheme, shows the pension scheme name, and then you've got details of the contributions. So percentages and amounts calculated for each employee, along with total contributions here on the right-hand side. So that's run a check, and if anything has changed since the last assessment, you'll see a flag appears next to an employee's name. So because I'm on quite a small payroll, you can see I've got 3 flags shown on the left-hand side. By hovering over a flag, it tells you what's changed. So it's telling me the category has changed, the employee is being automatically enrolled, and the reason for that was due to a pay spike. So the pay has increased above the earnings trigger. And then you'll see similar for the other employees. So I've got one turning 22. So they now meet the age criteria, and I have a new starter. So obviously they weren't previously in the scheme. So this is the first time they are being paid. Now for anyone there with a larger payroll, quick tip for you. If you want to do a quick check for any changes since the last assessment, rather than scrolling through, you can open the filters here at the top, and you can quickly show employees whose status changed this period. And again, that's shown me my 3 employees that have triggered auto-enrollment. And you can also filter by various categories. So those that have opted out of a pension scheme, for example, or the different category types. So my 12 eligible job holders, and you can see they are either auto-enrolled or they've opted out or left. So aside from monitoring your employees' age and earnings and automatically enrolling when it's been triggered, you can also use the pension assessment to deal with opting in, opting out, and postponement. So we're going to start with opting in. So opting in is where an employee isn't an eligible job holder. So maybe they're too young, too old, or don't quite earn enough to be auto-enrolled, or they might have previously opted out and decided they want to go back in. And an opt-in request is when an employee contacts you, their employer, in writing, requesting that they get put into the workplace pension scheme. So if you receive a communication from your employee, what you need to do is to record that, and you need to make sure that you put them into the pension scheme with effect from your next pay reference period. Now with the pensions module, this is really easy to manage. All you would need to do is to locate the employee that has asked to opt in. So it was this employee here, a non-eligible employee, a bit too old to be auto-enrolled, but still wants to join the pension. And once you've got them selected, you can click the opt-in/join button, and then you can record the relevant details. So they've contacted me, let's say on the 9th of October. I can choose my qualifying pension scheme, the scheme I'm going to put them in. If I want to attach any documents, so if I've scanned in the letter they've sent me, or it was an electronic document, we could attach a file. And then just clicking back into the date there, to complete the opt-in request, you simply click the opt-in button. So that change has now been applied. Employee 6 has been opted into the pension scheme. You can see the pension scheme name appears just here, but there are no contributions just yet. And the reason for that, if we hover over this, is they will be enrolled with effect from the next pay reference period. If you pay monthly, that's the 6th of the next calendar month. If you pay weekly, it's the start of the next tax week. So next month's payroll, this employee will start making contributions. So that's an opt-in request, and we can see the status is now reading opt-in. Now, for employees that want to leave a pension scheme, they will need to follow the opt-out process. Now, this one isn't quite as simple as writing to the employer. What they will need to do is to contact the pension provider for the scheme they were enrolled into, who will then tell them how they need to opt out. So there's different ways they could do this. They might do it via an online portal, or they might be sent a form to fill in and then to give to their employer. But whichever way they do it, ultimately you will be notified as the employer, and then you'll need to record the date they opted out. And if it's within a 1-month opt-out window, which starts on the date that their active membership began, you would need to refund any of their contributions. So let's find an employee who has completed an opt-out request. So employee 14, if we just look at their status, was auto-enrolled last month. They were a recent joiner to the company, but they've decided, now they've received all the information, that it's not for them. So they completed the opt-out process. I've now been notified. So all I need to do is to select the employee and then go into the opt-out leave button. Now for this one, you need to record the opt-out date. So the date of this request, I'm going to stick with the 9th of October. And because that was within the 1-month opt-out window, and that actually began when I wrote to the employee to confirm they were joining the pension scheme and sent the details to the pension provider. Because it's within a month of that date, I can tick this box, and you'll see that the first month's contribution amount is showing here. And again, if required, I can attach any documentation. So to complete this request, you would click opt out. You'll see the confirmation message. The status then changes to opt out, and it's now recording the total refund amount. So the employer gets a refund of their contribution as well. So that will be deducted from the amount that we next pay over to our pension provider. Now, if for some reason you're not getting that refund option, it might be because you haven't correctly recorded the active membership date. So that happens automatically when you send pension letters, which we'll see later on in the demo. And I'll also highlight at that point where you can check the active membership date and, if required, make a change to it. So we've seen an opt-in request and an opt-out request. What we'll take a look at next is postponement. Now, postponement is entirely an employer's decision. So at the point an employee triggers auto-enrollment, you can decide for that individual to delay their enrollment for a period of up to 3 months. And the main reasons for doing this would be if you're taking on short-term workers that you know will be leaving the business in less than 3 months. If you've got employees with a pay spike, so they are usually paid below the earnings trigger, but then as a one-off, maybe they've got an annual bonus, they've done some overtime that they don't normally do, they might have triggered auto-enrollment, so you could postpone to a date where their earnings return to normal, or sometimes it's used to align the enrollment date with the very start of a pay reference period. Now, in this example, I've got 3 employees that triggered auto-enrollment. So employee 7 did have a pay spike, but the reason for that pay spike was they've increased the hours that they're going to work, and that's a permanent increase, so they are going to remain eligible. So I've decided just to go ahead and automatically enroll them. Employee 11 has turned 22, so I'm going to keep them in the scheme. But employee 15, my new starter, is on a trial. We don't know whether we're going to keep him, So for this employee, we have decided to apply postponement. So again, it's all done from this pension assessment window. You would tick the employee name. You'd click on the postpone button at the top here, and then you can choose a date up to 3 months from the original enrolment date. So I can go all the way up to the 6th of January in this case, and then I can click postpone, which will apply that postponement. So although they were originally put into the pension scheme by the assessment, if I click OK, you can see they've been took off that scheme. Their status has changed to postponed. We will need to write to them to let them know they've been postponed, and they can choose to opt in early if they want to, but that will keep them postponed until after the 5th of January, in which case if they're still with us and they're still eligible, that's when they would go into the scheme. So that's pretty much it for the pension assessment screen. And if you want to keep a record of any assessment, you can select everyone by ticking the box at the top, and then you can print a copy of this screen, email it or download it. I'm just going to go ahead and close it, and I can then move on with my pay run. So just in relation to the refund, if I just highlight the employee that opted out and go back into the enter payment screen, you'll see now that the pension contribution is being refunded. So this is what they paid last month. This is what the employer paid last month. Within the employee record, you can see because they've opted out, there's a left scheme date within the pension scheme. And for an employee that's being auto-enrolled, you'll see that they have now gone into the pension. So they are in the pension scheme with effect from the 6th of October. And you can see that their status has now changed to auto-enrolled. So from this point, you would complete your pay run as normal. So you would print your pay slips and pre-update reports. You would then update the records, which I will do now. And you would submit your FPS in the usual way. So that's your pension assessment. That's a pre-update task. So you need to do this after you've entered the payments, but before you update records. It's also where you can do your opt-ins, opt-outs and refunds, and if applicable, apply postponement. So moving on next, we're going to talk about sending pension data to your pension provider. Now this process differs depending on which provider you're using and what particular features are switched on in your payroll subscription. So I'm just going to outline the 3 main methods of sending pension data to a provider. I don't have any demos for this section, but I will show you where you can go to find further support. So option 1 is to use Pensions Data Exchange. So you can think of this a little bit like RTI, where you're submitting payroll information to HMRC, but for pensions. So this is where enrolment details and contribution details are sent directly to your provider. So there's not much manual process involved. Just run this option, and then a submission is made and received by the provider. Now, it is also possible with some pension providers to import opt-out information directly from them and any scheme changes. And this is compatible with Nest, the People's Pension, Standard Life and Smart Pensions. So it does involve a little bit of setup. And if you want to learn more about setting up Pensions Data Exchange, on the handout, you've got a link at the bottom of this slide. And that will take you to the relevant information. Just choose your provider and follow the steps from there. So Pensions Data Exchange is submitting directly without having to log in manually to the pension portal or to download any files. The second method is exporting CSV files via the Send Pension Data option. Now, if this is enabled in your subscription, you will get the option of creating a CSV file containing enrolment and contribution details. That is then saved to your PC. There's a handy link to the provider's portal, and then you'll be able to upload those files containing enrolment and contribution information. You would then confirm that it's been accepted or rejected, in which case you can create it again after making any required changes, and it'll keep a history of the files that have been previously created. So this one works with Nest Now Pensions or the People's Pension. And again, for further guidance, if you follow the link on screen, that'll show you how to set it all up and use it. And the third option, if you're not with one of the providers I previously mentioned, we will have a report available for your provider, which will allow you to output a report in the required format for you to then import to your pension portal. So the way that this works is you output a report into Excel. You can then save the file as a CSV, and it'll have everything in the right columns with the right headers, picking up the data from your payroll, and then you would upload that CSV file to your provider's portal. And we do have reports available for a huge range of pension providers. You can see all of those by following the link on screen, which also contains the steps to download the report that you might need. So with your pensions module, we facilitate sending pension data. Sometimes it's sent directly, in a few clicks of the button. With some providers, you will need to use a report. So third thing we're going to look at, we're going to finish with this one, is send pension correspondence. So one of your duties for auto enrolment is to keep your employees informed as to what's happening. And this does mean that you are required to send letters at certain times. The send pension correspondence handles all of this for you. So it'll generate a letter as a result of a pension assessment. It will allow you to either print or email that letter to your employee. It'll keep track of the due dates and the sent on dates when you mark them as sent. And it'll also allow you to record the fact that communications have been sent if this is something your pension provider does for you. So there are 4 types of letter. There are general notices, which are sent to any new staff that join your company for the first time. There are enrolment job holder letters sent to employees that are being put into the pension scheme. There's a postponement letter, which is sent anytime you apply postponement, and every 3 years you can generate re-enrollment letters for employees that had previously opted out and who have then been re-enrolled back into the pension scheme. Now, send pension correspondence keeps an audit trail, so historical records of what letters were sent, which user sent them, what date they were sent on. So it's really good for the record keeping element of your employer duties. So let's take a look at this one in the demo. If I just bring the slide down again. So next in the tasks, you do have the send pension data option. So if you're using Pensions Data Exchange or you're creating CSV files using that option, you would go into that at this point. Review pension payments allows you to create a report showing what payments are due to your pension provider. So I'll just show you what that report looks like. So this is the one that I ran for September. So it shows the different contributions, the total amounts, and the amounts due to be paid. And then when it comes to writing to your employees, that's when we run send pension correspondence. So if I go into that now, because there were a few changes in that last assessment, we do now have some letters that we need to send. So first one in this list is a general notice. We took on a new starter, so they need a letter explaining how auto enrolment will affect them. We have 3 job holder letters to the employees who are being put into the pension scheme. So 2 of these were auto enrolled, 1 of them chose to opt in. And then again for our new starter, because we applied postponement, we have their postponement letter. So this option is used to produce and record the fact that the letters have been sent. If you want to preview something before you do that, you can click on the letter on the item title. So this is the job holder letter that we're sending to an employee being auto-enrolled. Explains what our duty start date was, what the criteria to be enrolled is, and the enrolment date. Picks up your scheme provider, illustrates minimum contributions under current legislation, and it informs them as part of this about their right to opt out of the pension scheme and the fact that they would need to contact the pension provider. So a few FAQs as well are available. These letters were created based on the letter templates from the pensions regulator. So that's just a preview. When it comes to actually printing these letters or emailing them, if you've set up email documents in Payroll, what you would need to do is to select the letters you want to produce. So I'm going to send all of these around pay date. And for the people that have been put into the pension scheme, the date that I send this letter becomes the active membership date. And if you remember, that was the date that the 1 month opt-out window starts from. So even if your provider deals with the communications, it's still best practice to come into this option just to record the fact that the letters have been sent and what date that happened, so that you're starting your opt-out windows at the right time. Now, all of this has been dealt with, let's say, at the end of October. So it's before the due dates for all of these letters, but it's after the enrolment date for many of them. We're going to choose that the user is creating the letter. It wasn't the provider who did it, we're doing it. So I've chosen user. And then if I click send, it's asking now to send it as a specified format, which is print for us, or we can override that format and print all letters if you've got some set up for email. I'm just going to click send, and you'll see it comes up with your usual print dialog, which I'm just going to cancel out of because I don't actually want to print them for this demo. And because of 3 letter types, we'll get 3 of those print screens. And that has then produced the letters for our employees. So you'll see they've moved out of the letters to be sent section, and they now form part of our audit trail, which we can view either by date. So we can see on 31st of October, these letters were sent. Last month, I sent a general notice and a job holder letter to a new employee. And then we've got previous letters that have been sent in the past. Or you can view historical by employee. So you can group by employee if you want to. So we're just going to close out of this screen. That's the end of this particular pay run. And I'm just going to finish off the demo by showing you what's going to happen on the next pay date when we run the pension assessment. So if I just set my date forward a month, we'll assume that the payments haven't changed. They're the same as last month, and we'll jump into the pension assessment screen. So you would take your backup at this point, and just in case you needed to come back to undo anything that you did in the assessment screen. So you can see for the employee that previously opted in, they are now having a contribution taken because we are in the next pay reference period. For the employee postponed, they remain postponed until the 5th of January. And for one that opted out, they remain opted out, and they've already had their refund. So next time they'll go into the pension is when we do our cyclical re-enrollment. So that's the 3-year duty to put people back into the pension scheme. So good news, no flags this month. So no action I need to take unless I've received any further opt-in or opt-out requests, which I would then process as shown before. So that brings us really to the end of the demo. So let's just refresh you on what those auto-enrollment duties were on an ongoing basis, and we'll link these back to the features that we've just seen. So first of all, you need to monitor the age and earnings of your staff, which is exactly what the pension assessment is designed to do. And if it finds anyone that has triggered auto-enrollment and they weren't previously opted out, it'll make sure that they're put into the pension scheme. It'll then help you to prepare the enrollment file for your provider. You can see contributions every time you run an assessment. They will be deducted from your employee and contributed by the employer, shown on the relevant reports. Requests to join or leave your scheme are also handled from the pension assessment via the opt-in or the opt-out process. And keeping records is really what's in mind with a lot of these features. So you can save the results of the assessment if you need to. You can see that audit trail of communications. If you send pension data tasks, you can see historical data you've produced for your provider. And when it comes around to re-enrollment, and if you're interested in that, we do have a webinar recording on re-enrollment during the pension assessment. That will all be taken care of for you as well. So that's it for the pensions module. I'm going to just run through some further support that's available, and then I'm going to jump on mute and help out with any outstanding questions, as we do have some time left. So just to point you in the direction of any help that you might need, we have an online help centre at sage.co.uk/help, which you can access from any browser, your PC or phone. You can also access the help options directly in Sage 50 Payroll, which will take you to the same support articles. So look out for any help icons that you see throughout your processing. You can read support guides. So we have a section dedicated to workplace pensions, so a great place to start on this particular topic. And we also have a webinars guide at the top of our help centre, which will show you upcoming webinars that you can register to attend. And if you go into that, you'll also see a link to our recordings. Look out for our videos within the support articles as well. And if you need help from our support team, you'll find all the options to get in touch directly from our help centre. Also want to mention Sage University at sageu.com. So as a Sage member, you get free access to this. All you need to do is create a profile at sageu.com. Once you've done that, you can join our e-learning courses, which you would complete at your own pace. You can do online certification, get your official certificate, and you can also complete a series of bite-sized learning courses just to hone your knowledge on those all-important payroll topics. So do check out Sage University if you haven't already at sageu.com. So we do have some time now to continue going through your questions. So if you've thought of a question now, it's your last chance to submit it via the Q&A option on the right. And if you'd like to download our handouts, just click on that handouts icon and you can get access to them from there. So anyone that's leaving now, I'd just like to thank you for joining us at the webinar today. We will send you a follow-up email later today with links to the recording of the session. And if you see a survey as you exit the webinar, really would appreciate any feedback that you might have if you could complete that survey, as that helps us to improve our webinars moving forward. So if you're sticking around for questions, I'm just going to go on to mute to help answer them. And I will be back to close the session down once we've got those all sorted. So I will speak to you shortly. Okay, so we have reached the end of our allocated time, so we are going to start to wrap things up at this end. Thank you so much for sending the questions through. I see the guys have been really busy sending the answers back to you, so I hope that those answers have been useful. If we didn't get round to answering your specific questions, I do apologise, but if you check out our help centre, you may find your answer there, or you can always contact our support team if you need that little bit of extra help. So when we close the webinar, you may be prompted to complete an exit survey as you leave. Again, we'd really appreciate you spending a moment just to do that for us, as that helps us to improve these sessions moving forward. And we will send you through a follow-up email later today. So that includes a link to the recording of the session today, and also a link to our webinar hub, where you can sign up for future webinars and watch our recordings. So I think the last question is just being answered there. All that remains really from myself is to thank you all for joining us at the webinar today. Big thanks to Louise and Laura for helping out with the questions. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone. And I hope to see you on some of our other webinars soon in the future. So goodbye for now.